my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That I don't know how many times I could say oh my goodness. Pens and Panthers coming right up on Penguins postgame. Let's get rolling.
You're locked in to Penguins hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Sidney Crosby and the Penguins play here on the Sports for Beginners podcast. He shoot, he scores! The bingo game is ready to roll. Welcome to Penguins postgame. A PPG for PGH, and you'd have to be here to believe it. Here is your host, Scott McGregor.
Penguins lose 3-2 in a shootout in the only early game in a 5-game slate of games on this Friday night. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Penguins and Panthers on Penguins postgame. I am Scott McGregor, your host of the program. I feel like there's an elephant in the room that we need to address right off of the jump of this game. But before we address the elephant in the room, let's kick off Penguins postgame the way that we normally do, with our head coaches and starting goaltenders. We know that for the Penguins, it's Mike Sullivan. We also know that for the Florida Panthers, it is Paul Maurice. So head coaches in the books, let's get down to who they set in goal for the hockey game. The backup to the Penguins tonight was number 39, Alex Nedeljkovic. The Penguins sent to the net number 35, Tristan Jarry. Jarry picking up the loss in a shootout, as we had to go to a shootout. Yeah, literally. Talk about a team battling from behind most of the game and pretty much almost ended it in overtime, but didn't go. On the other side of the ice, the Florida Panthers counter with Spencer Knight and Sergei Bobrovsky in at backup. So it is Spencer Knight versus Tristan Jarry in goal tonight at Amarant Bank Arena in Florida. All right, before we go into the first break, there's a lot that we got to get into. A lot that we got to get into. I mean a lot that we got to get into. So before we go ahead and take our first break of the program, let's jump to the second period and kick off our game breakdown before we get to the first break of the program with our second period scoring and our second period penalties, but we got to start in the first period. Oh, but really nothing happened except the Panthers penalty. Well, we're going to get into that as we want to do, because I want to make sure we start with the first period. And I also want to make sure that as we start off the program here at 10 p.m. Eastern here, depending on when we hit record, but regardless, I want to make sure that we jump into the first period right off the jump. And here we go. Sam Reinhart picks up a double minor 4-minute for high sticking penalty, 9 minutes and 18 seconds in. That will be all she wrote for the first period. Wow, that was quick. Well, the main reason because nothing else happened. Shots on goal after the first 20 minutes in favor of the Penguins at 13-10. Penguins on top 13-10 after 20 minutes of play. Second period we go. And this is where craziness happens. This is where the craziness begins. Let me just run into the penalties here before we get to the goals, because only 2 goals were scored in this game. Let me just jump into the penalties here because I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room. And that was the penalties for me in the second period of the game. AJ Greer, 2 minutes for high sticking at 2 minutes and 16 seconds in. Then Sam Reinhart, he gets a double minor for high sticking. That's the second double minor in this hockey game at 11 minutes and 4 seconds. And then here we go. 14 minutes and 38 seconds. That mark of the second period had penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. First for the Penguins, Brian Rust, a 2-minute minor for removing opponent's helmet. He gets called for roughing. It was removing the opponent's helmet. At 14 minutes and 38 seconds, Rakell also being charged a penalty, 2 minutes for hooking. Michael Bunting also getting a penalty for roughing, 2 minutes for roughing. All at the same time slot, and the Panthers got 3 penalties as well at the same time slot. Evan Rodriguez, the former Penguin, 2 minutes for roughing. Matthew Tkachuk, though, got thrown out of the game in the second period. However, he did return in the third period, as he was allowed to return in the third period after getting a game misconduct for 10 minutes. And on top of that, Tkachuk was called for unsportsmanlike conduct against Brian Rust. All of these penalties happening at the 14-minute and 38-second mark of the second period. And then, of course, the Penguins go to the penalty kill. Marcus Pettersson off to the box for tripping at 19 minutes and 58 seconds. That penalty would carry on to the third period. Now, in the second period, we were looking for the icebreaker after 20 minutes, and it was Gustav Forsling with his 6th goal of the season, breaking the ice 36 seconds in. We're not even a minute into the second period, and just before all the craziness begins, just before all the craziness in the penalty box begins, just before all the craziness in the penalty box begins, our craziness, well, maybe not craziness in the second period, but the first goal of the game, we get our icebreaker 36 seconds in to the second period by number 42, Gustav Forsling. Number 16, Alexander Barkov gets assist number 24 on the season. Sam Reinhart, we mentioned him earlier in the penalty box in the first period for the double minor. He also got a double minor once again for high sticking in the second period. But on the goal, he gets his 24th assist of the season. Penguins are able to score on the double minor to Sam Reinhart, but they only score on the second time Sam Reinhart is called to the box for a double minor. They only score on the first opportunity that they get on the second time he has been charged a double minor. And it's the captain, Sidney Crosby, picking up goal number 603 of the season for Sid tonight He now has goals up to 603 on his career with the goal tonight. Maybe it's 602, but regardless, Sid doesn't have more than he does have more than 600 goals, and he definitely has more than 500 goals, especially coming out of this one. Oh, by the way, he also adds an assist to his franchise leading assists in the game. Coming into this game, he had 602 goals for his career, 10 on the season, 1,035 assists in terms of his career. He now has 31 assists coming into this game. He did pick up an assist. Well, actually, no, he would have picked up an assist, but he didn't pick up one today. That's okay. I'm pretty sure he'll pick up something from me in the shake of the game and game puck of the game later on. But anyways, that's his 11th goal of the season, number 603 of his career. Brian Rust picks up point number 400 in his NHL career, speaking of which, tonight. And in career game number 600, speaking of 600, it is his 13th assist of the season. Matt Grzelcyk on the assist as well, his 19th of the season, at 11 minutes and 9 seconds in. And Gustav Forsling gave the Panthers the early 1-0 lead. Sidney Crosby and company tied it up. After 40 minutes, we are at 0-0. We are at, instead of 0-0, we are at 1-1 at the end of 40 minutes. Shots on goal for the period. And this is where we will take the break, the first break of the program. 10 for the Panthers in the period, 4 for the Penguins in the period. Panthers on top 20-17. So the Penguins were out shooting the Florida Panthers 13-10 in the first period. But now they're being outshot 20-17. Well, our final goal tally, we will find out about that in a second. But we got to get to the third, and we will get to overtime as well. And the shootout. All that coming up next. And following overtime and the shootout, as well as the third period, we will take another break. And actually, we will take a break before we get into the shootout. And then following the shootout, we'll get into the remaining total shots for the game. We will take a look at the other stats for this hockey game for the Penguins and Panthers. And we'll get you set up for round 3 on March 23rd, 2025 in Florida. The last game of this 3-game set between the Panthers and the Penguins. That takes place on March 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. Eastern. We will set all that up over the course of the program. But stick right with us, because when we return to Penguins postgame, we're going through regulation time and overtime in our game recap. The period-by-period recap is in full swing and continues on Penguins postgame in just a moment. Stick with us.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Welcome back to Penguins postgame here on Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Penguins and Panthers, the topic of conversation. And we addressed the elephant in the room before we took our first break of the program. In the second period, that was too many penalties taken at 14 minutes and 38 seconds into the second period of play. 14 minutes and 38 seconds. Just a reminder of who those went to. Brian Rust, Rakell, Michael Bunting, Matthew Tkachuk. He also got a 10-minute minor, a 10-minute misconduct, I should say. And Evan Rodriguez receiving penalties for roughing, hooking, and of course the misconduct for unsportsmanlike conduct to Matthew Tkachuk. Marcus Pettersson's penalty is the penalty that draws us into the third period. Panthers leading in the shots for the game, 20-17 after 2 periods of play. 10-4 was the final tally in the second period. And the Panthers score on the power play. A little bit of deja vu here for the Penguins here. The power play against Detroit on New Year's Eve. Sorry, the power play goal for Detroit against Pittsburgh on New Year's Eve was the ultimate difference maker in the Red Wings picking up a W against Pittsburgh. And speaking of that, Matthew Tkachuk was able to return to the game after his 10-minute misconduct that he got. We also know that Philip Tomasino was ruled out. He was injured in the game and did not return. So we'll hopefully hold our breath and see what happens with Philip Tomasino. But with that all being said, Matthew Tkachuk does score on the power play after the former Penguin that was reacquired by the Penguins in a Nashville Predator trade, Pierre-Olivier Joseph, he returns to the game and also receives a 2-minute minor for cross-checking, 6 minutes and 57 seconds in, and Matthew Tkachuk makes him pay with his 14th goal of the season, putting Florida back in front 2-1. Florida is now back in front 2-1. And Rakell says, guess what? That's not going to happen here. Because guess what? Sam Bennett, he gets called at 17 minutes and 59 seconds into the game. He gets called at 17 minutes and 59 seconds into the game for roughing. Roughing's been quite common in this game. You had a couple of roughing calls here in this game, and of course, Sam Bennett is called for roughing. At least that's what I have here. 17 minutes and 59 seconds in to the third period. And that is when the Penguins would score on the power play. Michael Bunting on the assist, his 11th of the season. Evgeny Malkin, his 24th assist of the season. And Rakell picking up the goal, his 18th goal of the season. A PPG for PGH, the second PPG for PGH of the hockey game for the Penguins, out of 2 that they had in the game. First one by Crosby, then one by Rakell. Oh, and also to add to that, just before the Bennett penalty, Aaron Ekblad went to the box for 2 minutes and for hooking and roughing. A common call here in this game. Hooking and roughing, a common call for this game. 9 minutes and 8 seconds was the time of the penalty. Sam Bennett going to the box at 17 minutes and 59 seconds. Time of the goal by Rakell, 19 minutes, 20 seconds. Penguins also almost got caught for a too many men on the ice penalty, but that was waived off. And well, our shootout winner, which we're going to get to in a second, it belongs to Sam Reinhart, but we're going to get to that in a second. Because now we're at the end of 3 periods of play. We're at the end of regulation. Penguins won that period 11-10. But they are being outshot by the Florida Panthers. And they would remain outshot as both teams score 3 shots on goal, I should say. They score 3 shots on goal in overtime. And in the end, it is the Panthers coming away with the victory, 33-31 in favor of the Panthers in the shot total. But now that we got overtime out of the way, because basically the shootout is where the action continues to happen, but the overtime period, nothing to say here on penalties for overtime in the extra frame. And of course, nothing really to show for in here in the overtime period scoring wise. So on to the shootout we go. The next goal wins, and here's what we got. The first person to shoot is for Florida, and that's Alexander Barkov. He is stopped by Jarry. Rakell first to shoot for Pittsburgh. He is stopped by Spencer Knight. Sam Reinhart, second shooter for Florida, scores and makes it 1-2. 3-0 Florida in the shootout. Sidney Crosby, he could tie it here and we would move on and we would play on. Stopped by Spencer Knight. And then it's Lundell. It's Lundell who says, "Good night, everybody," from Florida. This one's over. Penguins choke. It's 3-2 Florida in the shootout. Last time these two teams met, the Penguins beat the Panthers in overtime 5-4. That was on December 3rd. That was a month ago, and at the last month of 2024. So a month ago on the same day as tonight, December the 3rd, of course, today is January the 3rd, as we are recording this for you, 2025. But literally, in the same day, okay, technically not the same day, but you get what I mean. It's January 3rd, and the first meeting was December 3rd, which was a Tuesday night. Penguins won on the Tuesday night game on December the 3rd. Little taste of revenge here for the Florida Panthers as they beat the Penguins 3-2 in tonight's contest down at Amarant Bank Arena on January 3rd, 2025. That's today. And they do it in a shootout. Well, we needed overtime last time. Now we're just going to go shootout. And Anton Lundell says, "Good night, everybody," from the shootout. And he puts the puck in to do 2 out of 3 shooters and win it 2-0 in the shootout with 2 shooters for Pittsburgh in the shootout. And because of the shootout, it's Lundell with the final goal. Anton Lundell with the final goal to give us our finisher as this one ends 3-2 in favor of the Panthers in a shootout with goals by Reinhart and Lundell in our shootout. So the Panthers recover from a Penguins rally and they get their second win in their last 5 games after Rakell tied it late for Pittsburgh. The Panthers recovered, and they win it as a result. All right. Before we take a break, our second break of the program, let's jump into our remaining game stats of the game. And a disclaimer here, as we will do this off the top of the next segment after this next commercial break. Our 3 stars of the game and my play of the game, which we will not play for you in this one, but I will maybe put it as a little bit of a bonus for you guys to listen to after the game has gone final. We'll see what we're feeling like there. But regardless, we've got a 3-2 final score in favor of the Florida Panthers. Sam Reinhart credited with the shootout winning goal, which also would be our game winning goal. So here we go with our final top game stats tally. Shots on goal, as I said right at the beginning, it was 33-31 in favor of the Florida Panthers. The Panthers also bouncing back in the face-off dot here, winning 30 out of 58 face-offs for a face-off percentage of 51.7%, just about 52% in the face-off draws. The Penguins at 48.3%, but they win 28 out of 58 face-offs in the 58 face-offs that took place tonight. They go 2 for 7 on the power play at 28.6%. 1 for 3 go the Panthers at 33.3%. What was our penalty killing? I mean, it looks like Florida by far was the busiest team. It looks to me like Florida was by far the busiest on the penalty kill. Here we go. The Penguins are 2 for 7 on the power play. 5 for 7 are the Panthers on the penalty kill. The Penguins go 2 for 3 on the penalty kill tonight. And just about 48% and 52% in the face-off dot for both teams. Wow. Take a look at this when we go to the penalty minutes. Take a look at this. Just about half of a second period, if you will, was spent in the penalty box by Florida. The Florida Panthers leading in the penalty minutes 28-10, as the Penguins only spend 10 minutes in the penalty box. The Panthers spent 28 minutes in the penalty box tonight. 28 hits. They out-hit the Penguins 28-15. Penguins getting a bit closer in the blocked shots with 10. Florida had 12. 7 giveaways in this game for the Panthers. 8 giveaways for the 8 giveaways in this game for the Penguins. 1 takeaway for the Penguins in this game tonight. And 2 takeaways for the Florida Panthers in their shootout win over the Penguins. 3-2 the final score. All right. Quick disclaimer before we take this break, because after this break, we will get into it. The 3 stars and play of the game are brought to you by Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. If you're listening to the game on the Penguins radio network, all presented by S&T Bank, not sponsored by S&T Bank or Rivers Casino. And we're not sponsored by what the 3 stars are sponsored by, which is what we will kick off our next segment with after we take this break. And that is your neighborhood Ford stores in Pittsburgh. Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs are the official vehicles of the Pittsburgh Penguins. We'll get to the 3 stars right after this from our friends at On the Ice and Behind the Benches and other podcast feeds as well. So after that, we'll get to the 3 stars of the game and the play of the game, brought to you by Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Disclaimer, we are not sponsored by those sponsors I just mentioned that sponsor the Pittsburgh Penguins, including S&T Bank. a proud founding partner of the Pittsburgh Penguins. My Life, My Bank, SNT Bank, a proud sponsor of the Penguins Radio Network on WXDX FM Pittsburgh. Back with more on Penguins Postgame in a moment.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Welcome back to Penguins postgame here. Penguins fall 3-2 in a shootout to the Florida Panthers. We're going to get to a little bit of a game break in a second, as we have seen another of these 5 games go final. It is the Chicago Blackhawks beating the Montreal Canadiens 4-2. And the St. Louis Blues have also beaten the Ottawa Senators 4-0 in their game. We'll get to the other games in just a moment, but it's time now for our 3 stars of this hockey game. They are, as I said before we took the break earlier on, brought to you by your neighborhood Ford stores in Pittsburgh. Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs are the official vehicles of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Your 3 stars tonight, they are all Florida Panthers. They are all Florida Panthers. And if you are someone who has a different opinion in 3 stars, a play of the game puck of the game recipient, or shake of the game recipient, you know what to do. Go to our Penguins post-game show Discord server for the interaction, or send an email to Sports for Beginners Podcast 8231@gmail.com. That's Sports for Beginners Podcast 8231@gmail.com. Our first star, we start with our 3rd star as always. And of course, disclaimer, as I mentioned there before we took the break, the 3 stars of the game and the play of the game that we're going to get to in a few minutes, brought to you by your neighborhood Ford stores. Ford cars, trucks, and SUVs are the official vehicles of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, we are not sponsored by Ford. That could be something coming down the road. And of course, we are also not sponsored by what the play of the game is sponsored by, which is Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. Could be something coming up in the nearby future. 3rd star, the goaltender of the Florida Panthers, Spencer Knight. Goals against average of 1.86. Save percentage of 935. He is the third star of the game. The second star of this hockey game, number 19, Matthew Tkachuk, a goal, no assists, and 1 point. And even though he didn't score a goal, didn't score an assist, and didn't grab any points, he grabbed one of the goals in the shootout that led to the game winner. It's Anton Lundell. And you know what? Despite no goals, no assists, and no points, I actually like this. I like these 3 stars. I really do. But you know what? I'm going to flip the first star. I'm going to give that to Matthew Tkachuk. And I'm going to give our second star. We're going to flip the second and third and first star of the game around. Because I think the Penguins do deserve some credit here. So we're going to give the second star, for me, I'm going to give the second star to Rakell. 1 goal, no assist in the game. And 1 point. And I also should mention that Rakell did take a penalty in the game. One of the many that was taken at the 14-minute and 38 seconds mark of the second period. So there you go, your 3 stars of the game as mentioned in the NHL. They are Anton Lundell, and Matthew Tkachuk, as well as Spencer Knight. I flipped them around, so my 3 stars are Matthew Tkachuk, Rakell, and Spencer Knight. So I flipped the first and second star around. I gave my first star to Matthew Tkachuk. I gave the second star to Rakell. And I gave the third star to Spencer Knight. All right. Play of the game. We're going to go into that in just a matter of moments. But I want to get to a game break here before we do that. And following our final break of the program, we'll get you the next 5 for Pittsburgh, the next 5 for Florida, and once again, we will let you guys know that Florida and the Penguins, the Florida Panthers and the Pittsburgh Penguins, will do it all again. Paul Maurice and Mike Sullivan will do it all again in March as the season series between the Panthers and the Penguins wraps up on March 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, March 23rd, 2025. Since we've done that now, let's take a look back at this. Only one shutout to speak of in the NHL action tonight. The Blackhawks, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, they win 4-2 over the Montreal Canadiens. That one finaled in regulation. Also finaling in regulation tonight, the Blues top the Senators 4-0 in St. Louis tonight. So that's an interesting final there. Shutout victory, a shutout victory for the Blues. They win 4-0 over the Senators, outshooting the Senators 25-20, and goals off the stick of Braden Shen, Brendan Saad, He had he had 3 goals in this game. So he had a hat trick. And Braden Shen also picking up a goal in this game. Ongoing right now, the Anaheim Ducks have evened things up with the Edmonton Oilers tied at 2-2 in the third period of play. Still no score in the late game, Canucks and Predators. That game between the Oilers and Ducks is in the third period right now. And that one is all even at 2 goals apiece. The recent goals by Brett Leeson, I should say, and Jackson Lacombe. Jackson Lacombe, his 7th goal of the season. Brett Leeson, his 5th goal of the season. And goals by Edmonton Oilers' Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Darnell Nurse. Still looking for the icebreaker in Canucks and Predators as they play on in the second period. Check your local listings for the games there. Alrighty. Play of the game just before we hit the next break. And for me, tonight my play of the game will belong to Sidney Crosby, scoring the first goal of the game for Pittsburgh, a PPG for PGH. It ultimately tied the game up at 1-1 in the second period. And after we were scoreless after 20 minutes of play, we were tied at 1-1 after 40 minutes of play. So, with that being said, that's good. Crosby's 11th goal of the season, 603rd goal of his career is good enough for my play of the game. It's Crosby's 603rd goal of his career, 11th of the season. And it's a PPG for PGH that's good enough for my play of the game. As I said off the jump, if you would like to get in on the play of the game, the game puck of the game, the shake of the game, and of course, 3 stars of the game, send an email to Sports for Beginners Podcast 8231 at gmail.com. Or if you're on Discord, head on over to our Penguins postgame show interaction page on Discord and give your thoughts there. We will accept stuff throughout games as they go on, so your submissions will be greatly appreciated depending on the game. And with that all being said, play of the game out of the way. We'll come back in 30 seconds for our shake of the game. What's next for the Penguins? What's next for the Panthers? And our game puck of the game. We're back in 30 seconds after this from Broadcast Map. And a word from our friends, just to ease our 30-second break off, a word from our friends making our day brighter, one song at a time. Sienna T Radio, a word from Sienna T Radio and Broadcast Map before we wrap this up on Penguins postgame. Plus, we'll continue to check in on the late games going on right now between the Edmonton Oilers and the Anaheim Ducks, as well as the Nashville Predators and the Vancouver Canucks. 3 games final so far, including our game, and we'll check back in on Oilers and Ducks, as well as Predators, Canucks, when we continue in 30 seconds as we start to wrap up on the other side.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Penguins get it, I guess you could say, wrong in the shootout this time around, and the Panthers get the game winner this time. Game winner belonged to Sam Reinhart, and despite the Penguins' efforts to tie the game, after going behind and tying the game again, after going behind again, they grab a point, which is a positive. Grabbing a point is positive because this game could have ended in regulation 3-1. So give the Penguins credit. They were able to force overtime, and then both, of course, Tristan Jarry and Spencer Knight, they kind of make sure that overtime goes into a shootout. And my goodness, I mean, there were a ton of close calls where you could have said, this is going to end the game in the Panthers' favor, or this is going to end the game and cap off a great comeback by the Pittsburgh Penguins to give them the win and a 2-game series lead on the Florida Panthers. But the Panthers get the taste of revenge, and now we're looking for a winner. No matter who scores the most goals, who scores the most shots, who makes the most saves, it really doesn't matter at this point. All bets are off in this season series between the Panthers and the Penguins, because the winner of that season series will be decided in Florida on March 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. And with that being said, we roll on and moving on. All right. So we're down to the game, puck of the game, which is coming up in the next few minutes. But we want to start things off with the shake of the game before we do. Quick check-in on our games going on. It doesn't look like anything has changed yet as of late. If you missed it, the goals in the Oilers-Ducks game belong to Jackson Lecombe, Brett Leeson, Darnell Nurse, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the power play, Darnell Nurse at even strength, Jackson Lecombe on the power play, and Brett Leeson at even strength. Those are the 2 goals as we sit here waiting for that game in the third period to go final or go to overtime, probably. Oilers and Ducks in a good one, tied at 2 in the third period. Canucks and Predators, speaking of that, are tied at 0, waiting for the icebreaker as they play in period number 2 of that game. And with that quick check-in case you missed it, you probably didn't miss it when I was telling you, but in case you did, The Canadiens lost to the Blackhawks 4-2. And the Blues pick up the only shutout of the evening so far, 4-0, with goals by Braden Shen and 3 goals by Brandon Saad. Brandon Saad and Braden Shen have the goals for the Blues. And of course, in our game, Sam Reinhart gifted with the shootout winner, which would be our game-winning goal, our GWG. And the goals by Sidney Crosby, Rakell, Gustav Forsling, and Matthew Tkachuk for the actual game. All right. I don't want to delay this any longer. Here we go. My game puck. No, let's start with the shake of the game. Let's start with the shake of the game, and then we will move on to the game puck of the game after we reveal the next 5 for each team. Here we go. So, the shake of the game for me, we're going to give some honorable mentions, but for me, I'm going to just do one shake of the game for this game. And I really believe, despite giving up a goal on the power play and a goal at even strength for Tristan Jarry, I really believe, I mean, of course, he gave up the game-winning goal in the shootout, but it doesn't really count for his stats right now because that was just a free-for-all, I believe, if you want to say that. But I really believe 31 saves. He was magnificent tonight. Yes, we didn't win the game, and I get that. But listen, I think Jarry was good. I really do. I really think Tristan Jarry was good in this game. He faced 33 shots, made 31 saves, let 2 goals in, 1 on the power play, 1 at even strength. And I really like what I saw from Jarry. Some of the saves he made, by the way, not to quote Josh Getzoff or Colby Armstrong, but some of the saves that were made in this game, both by Jarry and Knight, Spencer Knight, some of those saves were like, how did that not stay out? Like, how did that stay out? How did that not go in? It was one of those like, how did it not stay out? How did it not go in? Well, apparently they were just too good of a save. I mean, I just had myself in awe when I kept seeing every save go and not go into the net. I figured this could be like 6-3, 6-6, 7-3, 7-6. This could have gone either way. You really never knew what was going to happen next. So my shake of the game for the Penguins, going to go to Tristan Jarry. My shake of the game honorable mention, that one is going to go to goal scorer of the Pittsburgh Penguins on the defensive side. No, actually, it was on the forward side. And I'm going to give that one to Rakell as an honorable mention. And moving right along here, we're going to move on to our Florida Panthers shake of the game recipient. That is going to belong to one of the 3 goal scorers in this game. And I'm going to go with, seeing as we are only going with a goal scorer in the actual game, I'm going to go with the goal scorer on the defensive side, Gustav Forsling. I don't know about you, but that goal that he scored to break the ice 36 seconds in was probably the fastest Florida Panthers goal I have ever seen get scored. But once again, it's become quite a bugaboo for the Penguins when they give up the first goal. And to Josh Getzoff's point on the Penguins feed, which you can catch on the Sportsnet feed, if you have Sportsnet on TV, on your TV side, on Canadian side, you caught the Penguins feed there for Sportsnet Pittsburgh. But to the point of Josh Getzoff, the Florida Panthers are 16-3-0 when they are leading after they have given up, or after the Penguins have given up the first goal of the hockey game, which has become a bit of a bugaboo for them. Anyways, an honorable mention is going to go to Spencer Knight, and I'm also going to give an honorable mention to Aaron Ekblad. I thought Aaron Ekblad played well. It wasn't his best night. It wasn't Aaron Ekblad's best night. It wasn't his best night. All right, very, very quickly here, because I want to provide some of my thoughts on this. Very, very quickly here, before we get to the shake of the game among our next five, which we're going to get to in a moment, notice for the program. I want to talk about a trade that I guess I could say it kind of surprises me, but in reality, I don't think it does. I honestly don't think it does. So I just want to get this in quickly here before we start really wrapping up with our game puck of the game and the next five for the Penguins and the Panthers. Earlier today, the Penguins acquired defenseman Colton Poolman of the Buffalo Sabres. He was assigned to Wilkes-Barre Scranton to play with the Penguins AHL team, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. And on the way to Buffalo was forward Bennett MacArthur, and it was announced by our general manager and president of hockey operations, Kyle Dubas, earlier today, as they finalized that deal with the Buffalo Sabres for Colton Poolman, a defenseman, headed to the Penguins for forward Bennett MacArthur. Bennett MacArthur is a forward that was on his way to Buffalo after Colton Poolman, who was in Buffalo, was finding out he was on his way to join Wilkes-Barre Scranton in this trade. So the Penguins get a defenseman for a forward that goes to Buffalo. And what we do know is Colton Poolman is signed through the 2024-2025 campaign, and his contract carries an annual value of $775,000 at the NHL level. He will report to Wilkes-Barre Scranton of the American Hockey League. He is 29 years old and has spent his entire 5-year professional career in the AHL, split between Rochester, Calgary, and Stockton. The 6'1", 200-pound blue liner has appeared in 218 career AHL games, recording 6 goals, 34 assists, and a plus-minus 33. He also has 3 assists in 27 career Calder Cup playoff games. Prior to turning pro, the East Grand Forks, Minnesota native enjoyed a 4-year college-educated career from 2016 to 2020 with the University of North Dakota, where he served as captain his senior year. He notched 75 points, including 18 goals, 57 assists in 146 regular season games. Not bad. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing when this guy comes into the NHL, or what he does on the strength of what he does on the strength of other goals that he comes into. We received the game break, but I'm just gonna get, you know what? Let's get to it. We receive a game break here, so let's get to this game break. The Oilers win it 3-2 in Edmonton. They beat the Ducks 3-2 in Edmonton. Leon Draisaitl said good night, everybody from the oil country in Edmonton, Alberta, as the Oilers win that one 3-2 and recover from the Ducks. Speaking of goals, we have a score in the Predators-Canuck game, as the Predators have taken a 1-0 lead in that game. So the Oilers escaped the Ducks 3-2, and on the way to the third period, the Predators have gained the lead on top of Vancouver 1-0. So we could see another shutout. But I just said that, so now that I've said the word, we probably might not see that. That game headed to the third. And given that we are at a 1 hour mark into the program, we're just going to get right to the game puck of the game. And then I'll wrap things up with our next 5. So the game puck of the game tonight is going to belong to Aaron Ekblad. No, actually, we're going to give it to Matthew Tkachuk. And that will be our Florida Panthers game puck of the game. Also, speaking of that, we're going to get to the Penguins game puck of the game, and that belongs to Bryan Rust tonight. Rust gets a point in his 600th career NHL game, his 400th point in his NHL career. Nicely done there by Bryan Rust. Would be really, really nice if you could have gotten point number 401 on the night, if you could have scored a goal tonight. We'll see when that happens. But the Penguins fall 3-2. And so with that being said, Bryan Rust and Matthew Tkachuk are getting the game puck of the game. And that leads us to the next 5. Well, the Penguins gonna wrap up their 3-game road trip on a very special night for myself and the host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches. I'm looking forward to bringing that to you when we get there. And that's on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Double trouble alert! 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 Right before we bring you that recap, we'll bring you the recap of the Bills and the Patriots, the season finale of the regular season for the 2024 season in the NFL. We will bring you the Bills-Patriots final from that game in Foxborough before we bring you Hurricanes and Penguins on Penguins postgame. and we'll get back to that in a moment. But moving on, the Penguins will begin a 5-game homestand that will see these games wrap up our next 5, including next Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern on January 12th, 2025. Their 5-game homestand opens up with a matchup with the Columbus Blue Jackets on January 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Edmonton Oilers are in town to take on the Penguins on Thursday, January 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern. Ottawa will take on the Penguins at 4 p.m. Eastern time on wherever you could find your favorite podcast, wherever you could find your favorite streaming service there, wherever you can find the game to stream it. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Central time on January 11th, 2025. At an hour after that, but on a Sunday, it's the Lightning versus the Penguins from PPG Paints Arena. And it's the Lightning versus the Penguins. That ought to be a good one. So the next 5 for the Penguins, 4 games at home, leading into a 5-game homestand that will wrap up on the 14th when the Seattle Kraken are in town. That ought to be a good one. And I'm looking forward to maybe having a surprise guest on the show. We will see. But the next 5 for the Penguins are the Hurricanes to wrap up a 3-game road trip, which is a 2-game road trip to start 2025. And then we got to play 5 games at home. 4 of them are in the next 5, which are hosting the Blue Jackets, Oilers, Senators, and Lightning. For the Florida Panthers, since they won't play Pittsburgh until March, and neither will Pittsburgh play them till March, we've got the Utah Hockey Club as part of a 2-game road trip that begins on January the 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern, when they will take on Nathan McKinnon and the Colorado Avalanche. They will face off against the Utah Hockey Club to wrap up their 2-game road trip in Salt Lake at 10 p.m. Eastern. Then they're one day only, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's the Boston Bruins taking on the Florida Panthers at 1 p.m. Eastern. This Saturday, January 11th. Well, actually, I'll say next Saturday, January 11th, in Florida, where they played tonight and beat the Penguins in a shootout. Oh, by the way, they were on a back-to-back. So they lost to Carolina on Thursday, beat the Penguins tonight. Not a bad start to 2025. 1-1 on the year. Not a bad start. But that's okay. Speaking of back-to-backs, we close out the next 5 for the Florida Panthers with a back-to-back that will see them take on the Philadelphia Flyers on the 13th of January at 7 p.m. Eastern. And they'll take on the New Jersey Devils at 7:30 p.m. Eastern the next night on a Tuesday night. The game against the Flyers is on a Monday night. And the game against the Devils is on a Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So next 5 for the Florida Panthers, a 2-game road trip That will lead to another two-game road trip. Which is at the Avalanche at Utah Hockey Club. They will host the Bruins next Saturday, January 11, 2025. And then they will play in Philadelphia, then in Newark, New Jersey. In New Jersey against the Devils. Newark, New Jersey. They will take on the Devils and the Flyers to close it out in a two-game back-to-back road trip. That will see them also start a two-game homestand right after that and lead to a four-game road trip with, get it, again, a back-to-back. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So the next five for the Panthers are the Avalanche, Hockey Club, Bruins, Flyers, and Devils. The Penguins, next five. The Hurricanes this Sunday. This coming Tuesday, they will play the Jackets. On Thursday, they will play the Oilers. On Saturday, the 11th, they're on a back-to-back, playing the Senators and then the Lightning at different times. With that being said, that will put a wrap on this episode of Penguins Postgame. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your evening. Let's go Pens. And I look forward to catching up with you again on Sunday after Bills and Patriots for the Bills postgame show. And for Penguins Nation, I look forward to catching up with you again after the game between the Penguins there, and of course, the one and only Carolina Hurricanes. That game on January the 5th. That will be the Penguins' next action. We will bring it to you after Bills, Patriots, and Hurricanes and Penguins. Enjoy the action on Sunday. It's a busy day for Sports for Beginners. That's going to be a busy day, and I can't wait to bring that to you. Let's go Pens. They fall tonight, but will they fall to the Carolina Hurricanes? Find out next time on Penguins Postgame. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. I'm out of here. Let's go Pens, and I'll see you next time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. You've just listened to Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners or visit the official Sports for Beginners podcast website. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. And you'd have to be here to believe it.